Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Burns. I'm the director of the Business Insight Center at the Central Library. And welcome to our first presentation for this year's First Wednesdays series of programming. Again, it's the first Wednesday of each month with our partners from the Small Business Development Center. Jan, would you like to say a few words first and introduce Gina?
Yes, I would. Thank you very much. Good morning,
Before
everyone.
you start talking, Jan, hold it. Sorry, 1 second. Please keep your mics muted, and any questions you have, please enter in the chat box. Also, this presentation will be recorded, so if you have to bow out early, you can view the presentation on the Central Library's YouTube page. Okay, Jan, take it away.
Good to go? Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Wednesday. Sorry that we're not able to meet in a more comfortable situation face-to-face in the library at the auditorium, but these are the times that we live in. Today's session actually reflects what you are encountering right now, and we're going to hear from Gina Mangiamele, one of our top business advisors at the center at the SUNY Brockport Small Business Development Center, talking about entrepreneurial strategies under the current situation and environment. You'll pick up some good points and some good tips and some good ideas, and certainly we'll encourage you to consider contacting the Small Business Development Center to help you with your business planning and to help you grow your business during these uncertain times. We are available by remote control, as we like to call it. We are telecommuting from our homes, but we can do Zoom sessions with you, phone conversations, email. We are going to be reopening the office shortly, but we're going to try avoiding the face-to-face meetings, at least for the time being, until things start to settle down a little bit. Having said that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Gina because we are limited on time, and please make sure to ask any questions, and again, keep us in mind as you go forward if you need any help with your business. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Gina.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gina Mangiamele. I'm a certified business advisor with the New York State Small Business Development Center at SUNY Brockport. And one of the problems that I see with the SBDC is that people say that we are the best kept secret. So before we actually get into the program, which is Entrepreneurial Strategies for Winning in a COVID Environment, I want to be sure that each of you understands what resource we are and how much we can help you. So I want to begin by at least explaining that the SUNY Brockport Small Business Development Center is actually one of 23 centers statewide and one of 1,157 nationwide. This is a huge program that is national since 1984. And our SBDC in New York State is accredited with over 500,000 jobs created and $7.2 billion in investment. So we start with funding with the SBA. New York State helps us out, and the SUNY Brockport actually helps us as our host. And you'll see that SBDCs around the state are hosted by institutions like Niagara, Buffalo, Onondaga Community College, PACE, and around. So if you need any of our assistance, keep in mind that the New York State Small Business Development Center is here to provide customized solutions through advisement, education, research, and advocacy for entrepreneurs, inventors, and small and medium business enterprise community, which means we aren't just startups. So we have lots of resources. So I would encourage you to engage with our free and confidential resources at the nyssbdc.org. And we are there to help you with one-to-one advisement, workshops and training, business startup support and venture idea modeling. We can help grow your business and get you into international markets. We also can assist with that business plan development. And we have a stellar team in Albany that are professional research marketing librarians who can provide a lot of information on specific things. I rely on them. And very often the information that we get back sometimes helps an entrepreneur go in a different direction because we now have the data that we need. We have a lead generation software called BidLinks and can help with government procurement. And of course, we're always there to help with financing your business, loan packaging, and everything in between and much more. So keep that in mind. So the small business survival strategy for you could be just knowing that the SBDC exists, and it could be your smartest first step. So let's begin with this program. Here we are in the midst of a pandemic, and this is classified as a disaster. Just like 9/11 or Sandy, we have hurricanes and floods and wildfires, and now we see that rioters, looters, protests, and things are also affecting small business. Disasters are always going to happen, but this time our disaster is an infectious disease. It is the coronavirus pandemic. We didn't expect this. And the question becomes, in this new type of disaster that we haven't really seen shutting down the country before, the question becomes, how can a business survive with the environment that we have right now? We see lots of companies going out of business. In fact, I received from the United States Census Bureau the results of a survey that they did, and 33% of the businesses they surveyed stated that this pandemic has adversely affected their business to the point where they may go out of business. And this is the part that's very scary. Small businesses represent more than 95% of all businesses in the United States. So if you break the backbone of small business, you can impact this country dramatically. And this is a very big concern for us, and why the SBDC and other resource partners are working so hard to help you survive these circumstances so that not only come out and survive, but come out on top. So how do we survive? Well, we could always hope for the best. And as Stephen King told us, there's no harm in hoping for the best as long as you're prepared for the worst. And that's pretty good. That's pretty good advice, I think, because I don't think many of us think about the what ifs. What if things go wrong? What if my business burns down? What if I get sick and can't run my business? So preparedness has always been essential. And I know with most of the business owners that I work with, they do think about preparedness. They buy insurance to make sure that if there's a fire, they're covered. They put locks on their doors to prevent theft. They train their employees. They do all the things that are customary to protect their business and be prepared, right? Except in this pandemic, most of the clients that I work with said, I've not seen this before, and I don't know what I'm doing. And they're reaching out for help. So we're here to help with those things. Now, I've probably worked with about 70 clients between March 15th and August 30th, okay, related to the pandemic. And I've seen things in talking with my clients that I call pandemic paralysis. They weren't really sure what to do. They didn't know how to handle what was being thrown at them. And there's good reason for that. It's never happened before. We've never shut down the country like this because of a pandemic. There's so many things that are happening that it's uncharted territory. We have new legislative arena that we're working with, and the circumstances were unpredictable. If you remember, back in the middle of March, the idea was to shut down for 15 days so that we could flatten the curve. And we shut down for 15 days. And then 15 became 30, and 30 became 40, and 40 became 56, and on and on. So this was unpredictable circumstances. It was the fatigue of unknown. We just didn't know what to expect next. So that created this uncertainty, tremendous amount of frustration among my clients, not to mention a lot of confusion. Now, the confusion wasn't just on the part of the small business owner. Every resource partner, from the state to the SBDCs to the SBA, to county economic development agencies, to the bankers, there was confusion about how we proceed. What about Paycheck Protection Program? How do we do economic disaster injury loan processing? So it was sort of like building an airplane while you're trying to fly it. And it was a very difficult time, but I have to tell you, I think that overall, the majority of agencies and partners and people and small businesses remained agile and were able to respond, and that's a good thing. But many of the clients that I talked with would say, if only I had more money in the bank. If only I could have anticipated that this would have happened. Well, if only I had talked to my vendors, if only, and I kept hearing this over and over again. And I would say, stop. A lot of this is out of your control. So forgive the situation, you know, take a breath and move on. But the question remains, how do we move on from this? What do I have to do? So in moving on to how we step day by day, one day at a time through this pandemic and this COVID crisis, we have two things we have to look at. We have to assess where we are and be honest about it. And then from that assessment, make decisions and come up with strategies. And I liken this to when parents perhaps get that call that says, this is the hospital calling, we have your son or daughter, and they're here. So if you'd like to come to the hospital, we would appreciate it if you would leave now. I've had that call from every single one of my 3 girls. It is frightening because I don't know anything. I can't assess anything. I don't have any information. So when an accident happens, and my youngest daughter actually flipped her car and hit a telephone pole in January of 2018. And it was frightening because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to respond. So I get to the hospital and I see assessment. How does she look? She looks fine. She bumped her head. She didn't have any cuts or scratches. So I started asking questions. How did this happen? Where's the car? How did this, what did the car look like? Did you call the insurance company? You know, all these questions start to come into play because we know that assessment is an essential piece of how we're going to react. So once we have information, we know we can bring you home from the hospital. We know we need to call the insurance company, get a police report, call the tow truck company, get the car out of the ditch, so on and so forth. We can develop strategies once we understand the situation, get data, and assess. So what I'm hoping to accomplish today, and these are the expectations I put on myself, is that I will give you at least 10 ideas that you can leverage to implement into your business to help you succeed in coming out of this pandemic, and not just for today, but for future disasters that may occur. So I'd like to task you with taking copious notes. And if that means you go back to the presentation online and review it again and take more notes, I want you to use that information, then do a little more research on your own and come up with a standard operating procedure. It doesn't have to be a massive book, but you need to have things in place that in the event of a disaster, these are the top 10 things we're going to work on first as we proceed. And then that manual is not kept at your business. That manual is kept in a place where you can get to it, because if it's tornado or hurricane or whatever, you need to have access to it. It might be on a flash drive. It might be in the glove box. It might be wherever you can access it without difficulty, and that it's at your fingertips. So think about, as I go forward, the things that you can do as it pertains to your business. If you're manufacturing, what I'm saying is going to mean a little bit different. If you're retail, if you're service, if you're healthcare. So in the mindset of the type of business that you are, think about how these 10 steps can help you survive in a pandemic or any disaster that may come along next. So what are we going to talk about? The very first thing is that in a situation like this, you need to have a laser focus on what needs to happen. All right, so we're going to talk about these 10 areas about not panicking, how to dive into assessment and do a fair evaluation of your situation. We're going to look at your cash and ask questions there. Look at brainstorming as it relates to sales and marketing, operations, and administration. That's a really important component. Search for resources and opportunities that help you to pivot. We're going to talk about that. Understanding and comprehending these legislative impact, and educating yourself daily on the facts and reassess as you move forward. I think one of the issues that I saw most with my clients through this period is they wanted a quick fix. And there is no quick fix because we don't know what the end looks like. We can't even see it at this point. So staying on top of things, educating yourself daily on the facts as you move through this means you're going to have to adjust. You're going to embrace some changes that might actually be outside your comfort zone. We're going to talk about communication and the need to be kind to each other and compassionate during these times so that we don't alienate those around us. So let's talk about the first rule of thumb. When these things happen and we got the order, everybody must shut down. I know for a fact that people became very panicked. They were dismayed. It was unbelievable to them. What do you mean shut down? You mean take the whole country and just stop functioning? It was unprecedented. And so many of us went into anxiety attacks. I mean, we've seen how this entire situation has increased our suicide rates, anxiety, emotional illness. We've heard from doctors that have talked about children having tremendous problems with dealing with this. So as a leader in your own organization, as a leader in your family, you need to be calm. You need to not panic. You need to be the voice of reason. Even if inside you're falling apart, you need to find ways to maintain control, breathe, and take care of yourself. Eat, sleep, walk, exercise, do the things that are going to help you stay whole. Because if you fall apart, everything else around you will probably fall apart. So whether you're on YouTube listening to Columbia University Dean Hubbard talk about their advice, the very first thing he talked about was don't panic. And I've probably watched maybe 10 or 12 videos on leadership during a pandemic or during a crisis. And the very first rule of thumb is always, don't panic. Every crisis has an end. Tomorrow will be better. These are the things you have to have on your list. Tell yourself, look in the mirror, and be very careful for that self-care. So once you have a mindset that you're going to get through this and you're able to get yourself organized, it's time to start digging in and taking a deep dive into a measured assessment. Now, this measured assessment is not a one-size-fits-all. Each industry is definitely going to have to look at, if you're retail, it's going to look one way. Some of it will be similar, but healthcare providers, some businesses are going to do better, some are not. So the assessment is going to help you define exactly how you're going to move forward. So what are some of the questions that we think business owners who sit down and begin this assessment need to ask? They need to create a list and answer the questions to that list. So starting with, okay, things are shut down, but can I still operate? And if I do, how many hours a week do I think the business could be open? How much is it open now? How many employees do I have that are full-time? How many are part-time? What's my current payroll obligation? What is the function of each one of these positions? As you go through and assess, who's on board? What are they doing? Can I reduce staff? Can two people pick up on something? Can we all answer the phone and I'll need to lay off the administrative assistant? Hard questions, hard solutions. Looking at that function and actually prioritizing based on how essential those functions are. What would the impact of my unemployment experience rating if I lay off everybody? Will my rates go up? So one of the things that I have a client that's down in Canandaigua, and their entire business is built around sucking the grease pit and all that grease from restaurants. So imagine what happens when that's my business and you shut down all the restaurants, with the exception of those that can maybe still operate and curbside pickup. That's going to impact my revenue. And what am I going to do? So how many employees do I need? And she ended up laying them all off for about 15 days. So when Paycheck Protection came and they were able to keep those people on the payroll, That helped her because her unemployment and experience rating is not going to be as impact, and maybe her rates possibly will not go up as much as others will who completely laid off and closed. So you have to assess that. Every business needs to look at that if you have employees. You know, how are my customers being affected by this? You know, will my supply chain be interrupted? Do I have alternative suppliers? What orders are pending right now? Is there something I can cancel? Who are my trusted advisors within my business, outside of my business, and what should they be working on? What creative solutions can we develop? Should the staff have input? What does a plan B look like if we have to shut down completely? And it goes on and on and on. This is just a few examples of the thought process of how you're going to develop these questions and actively go after the answers so that you can assess, where am I? How long am I going to be here? And how do I come out of this alive? That's pretty much what assessment does for you. So in taking a look at the after assessment, as we all know as business owners, cash is king. If you don't have cash, you absolutely are not going to be able to operate, because using that credit card, building up debt is not going to be good for your business. So the second thing that I think is really critical is to sit down with your accountant perhaps, or just going through your books and taking a look at, as of today, what is my cash balance? How much of that cash is already committed to rents or something else? Do I have any cash reserves? One of the frustrations for me is I couldn't believe how many people absolutely did not have that little savings account in the back of the store or in some remote bank that in case of an emergency, you have a rainy day fund. This was astounding to me that there wasn't more emphasis put on making sure that you have some cash someplace else that you never touch. You know, when things are good and you've got cash to put in, then you should be setting aside. I don't care if it's $5 a week. I don't care if it's $1 a week. It's building a habit that allows you to put that cash away and be disciplined not to touch it. Because even if all you had was $2,000 in that rainy day fund, it still would have helped to a certain degree. So cash reserves, a rainy day fund, is an essential element that you need to work on if you don't have it now. So take a look and see, what are the cash reserves? Do I have any? Maybe I don't. The next things that affect cash are your cash receivables, okay? Accounts receivables from customer, or what you're anticipating from the people who use your business or service. I think about the gyms, you know, the physical fitness centers, the gyms, the Planet Fitnesses around us. They had to shut down. And there were a lot of people that were on regular monthly deductions, you know, whether it was $33 a month or $10 a month. So now that's coming out, or is it? I'm not able to use the gym, so I think I'm going to stop it. That's impacting your revenue. That's impacting your cash. So whether you're a business that issues invoices or you have subscriptions, the most important thing is that you've got to take a look at where that revenue is coming in from and asking yourself, is that revenue going to continue? So if you have invoices that are out there for services and product that are already delivered, you assess that, you go through and analyze. 80% of your revenue is probably coming from 20% of your customers. So if you have a customer base of 150, then you probably have 30 customers that are regular customers that are contributing to your cash flow and your revenues. So you want to be sure to be in touch with those customers. One, you want to ask if they're okay. Are they still operating? What is their anticipated payment schedule going to be? If we're all in this together and we all are being affected by the pandemic, talking to every single customer that has a revenue stream to you and understanding their posture and their position as to whether or not they're going to pay you or not, that's a pretty critical conversation that you need to have. So you're going to make a list. You're going to call every customer. You're going to find out in a very diplomatic way, how are you going to pay me? Here's what I'm showing on accounts receivable right now. How would you like to structure this so that we both can live through this? It's a good conversation to have. The next conversation is on the other side, where one, the money's coming in, the other, the money's going out. So you may have, subscription services to different software. You might have, accounts payable, office supplies, things that are out there, and vendor payables that have to be paid. And they're going to ask you the same question. How do you plan on paying me through this pandemic? So again, you're going to take a look at your accounts payables and talk to those accounts payable managers to find out what their expectation is and tell them what you can do based on your conversation with your customers. Now, we all typically in business have some type of a fixed payment. It could be a line of credit. It could be a business loan. There's monthly debt, car payments, things that need to be paid for. So the first thing you do when it comes to this is get on the phone with your banker. And you're going to have a very honest conversation with, here's what I think I can do. What can you do for me? Can you defer payments? Now, through the initial part of the pandemic, we learned that the SBA was pretty much in tune with this, which is why they created the debt relief program. If you have an SBA guaranteed loan through a bank, and it is your business loan, you should be talking to your banker about how you are involved or how you can get involved with the debt relief program, because the United States Treasury, this is not deferment, and I've heard this from a lot of bankers where they are saying that they are going to defer your payments, okay? We don't want deferment. We want the United States Treasury to actually be making those payments for me. So even if you haven't had that conversation with your banker as yet, this program is good through December 31st, and I would encourage you to get to the details on any business loan that you may have and inquire. You can also go to the SBA.gov website and read about the debt relief program. You can do some preliminary assessment to determine whether your loan is a business loan guaranteed by the SBA and what is the protocol for getting that debt relief program underway, okay? And don't wait. Probably the worst thing you can do is wait. Well, we'll see what happens after the first 15 days, and then it's 30 days, and then you're getting notices from the bank because they haven't heard from you. They don't know if you can pay it or not. I have a client in East Rochester who's on the verge of losing a property he's owned for 35 years because he didn't want to have that conversation. He wanted to wait and see. In a pandemic, in a disaster, you must be sturdy and deliberate. You can't wait to see what happens. You need to protect yourself from the beginning. So talk to the bankers, talk with anybody else too. You might have a fixed asset program with, Westinghouse Credit or something else, but look at that debt load monthly, see who you need to talk with and have that conversation early. And last but not least, because cash is so important, you start looking around at what can I get rid of? Are there things that we've had hanging around that we don't really use that we could liquidate and get some cash in? And I don't care if it's a $10 table. If you don't need it and you're not using it, think about how you can possibly liquidate some things that will bring in some cash from home. It could be around the office because someone is still out there who may need it. So never discredit any opportunity. When I recommend this, people say, well, I don't really have anything. Well, what about this or that? That could bring in $1,200. Oh, it's only $1,200, but it's $1,200 more than you had. So do not discredit these things. Have the conversations, focus on cash, and make sure that your cash status is secure early on in the game in any disaster. So next, after we've taken a look at the assessment, kind of identified how we're going to look at where we are right now, one of the top recommendations that I have for you is to gather your staff, people around you. If you have your own advisory board from networking groups or whatever, it's best to have brainstorming ideas. People are so creative. They have ideas about things that half the time you probably haven't thought about. Why? Because you operate in a certain way. You've always operated this way, and sometimes it's hard to get out of your own head and think a little bit differently. But it's good to have this conversation. So rally the troops, get your staff together. From your assessment and fair measurement, give them a status report on here's where we are today. We don't know how long this is going to last, so let me hear your best ideas on how you think we should move forward, and let's tackle it topic by topic. So let's say we start with marketing. The website. What does our website look like? Do we have updated information? Have we posted what our new protocols will be? Moving from in the restaurant type of service to curbside only. Is that on the website? Is there a place where you actually say on the website, we're here with you, we're concerned with you, we're in this together with you? I mean, something positive, uplifting. Is that on the website? Is the website up to date so it's easy to use? Do you have e-commerce in place? Do you actually have a way that people could buy from you online? Now, restaurants typically would have this under control, and many of them were able to really pivot and move to curbside pickup quickly, because when we buy food, a lot of times we're on our phones, we order it, we pay for it, and we're done. But what about the small business owner that's sitting on Main Street in Canandaigua? She has a company where they do home decor projects. So you come into my store, you buy things that eventually end up as a nice piece of home decor, and then you come to a workshop in the evening in my building, and we make it, we put it together, and I teach you things. Well, what if my website only talks about that this is who we are, but I don't have e-commerce? So I have a client that actually was in that position. She was a very small business, and it's sort of like painting with a twist, where you come and you buy stuff, and she makes these beautiful wall hangings and so on. In one weekend, like within 36 hours, she rallied her troops. She found someone who can build a website in like a day, like in 15 minutes, create e-commerce, and she did massive marketing, not just to her customers through emailing and Facebook posts and things. She coordinated with every other business on Main Street. So if you're a restaurant and you got curbside pickup, she provided them with little pieces of paper that said, while you're enjoying your dinner, come have a look at Lath and Ladder. We can help you have some fun at home. Well, I can tell you that within 3 days, she was busier than she had ever been. She had more curbside sales than she ever did. And in March and April, she tripled her sales. But she still had to assess what's lacking. What do I need to add? Do I need more employees? That assessment provided a strategy. That strategy provided a solution that she was actually able to triple her profits. So the pandemic was actually good for her. I think about pizza shops. They were having problems not because they needed to shut down. They didn't have enough pizza delivery people. If you wanted to make some quick cash, the best thing you could have done was gone off to any pizza place to say, do you need delivery people? And, you know, the story has been told I have a friend who lost their job, but she was making approximately $100 a night in tips delivering pizza. So brainstorming ideas can work. So the other thing about the website is to develop a vocabulary. What are the words in our language that have changed? Curbside pickup, okay? Pandemic, contactless delivery. Think about all the different words that have been used to help us describe what we can do for you in this pandemic environment. So you need to develop a vocabulary list. Think about what you hear on the news. What are people talking about? How are the healthcare providers providing us with terms? And then how do you incorporate that into the text in your website? Because you need to have that. If there's modified hours, you need to show that on your website, because that's going to be your single point of contact when people try to find you. You're going to find new ways to drive traffic to your location and to get online and find you. So one of my clients said, you know, if they can't come to me, then let me go to them. And what did they do? They drove through neighborhoods with stickers and flyers and people coming around, and they were handing off flyers for their business, saying hello, hope everybody is safe. My name is so-and-so and our business does XYZ. And they actually went driving through. And how many times have we seen birthday parades and congratulatory parades in our cars? Because we can do that, right? So being creative. And then think about creative incentives. Run some contests. Think of different forms of communication, all right? So reconfigure your process to achieve the same productivity. So if the process was somebody comes to the door, you seat them, and they order their meal and you deliver it, things are different now. So go through and actually do flow charts that can see how you can pivot, okay?
Hey, Gina,
Yes.
we have a question. Where can I find the best places to sell whatever I can liquidate? Do you have any recommendations for Karen?
I will tell you that we liquidated a bunch of stuff in my personal life. We just sold a boat, and we've done them all on Facebook Marketplace. It's been a tremendous resource, and there's many of them. Let Go, Craigslist, and so on. But there's nothing to say that you couldn't. I mean, we sold a PT Cruiser once, and I made up a little flyer. Hang on. I apologize for that. Didn't even know the phone was in the room. I made up little flyers, and I went through a grocery store parking lot, and I just put them on. It's bold. People probably didn't like it so much, but I put the flyer on their windshield, and we sold the car within a day because someone got it on their windshield. So I would say be creative, brainstorm different ideas. Facebook Marketplace has been good. Let Go has been good. I have sold a lot on Craigslist, although I'm careful about what I sell on Craigslist. And I talk to people, post it on Facebook, tell my friends, communicate. If it's about business and I have equipment, then I would talk with everyone I know, whether it's through a chamber, my networking group, people that are on my advisory board that I just sort of run things by, and ask them questions. I have a stove, an extra stove in my kitchen for my restaurant. I don't need it. I don't use it. What's the best way to get rid of it? So leverage those people that are in your circle of influence and ask questions and get it out there so people know you've got it to sell. Does that help?
She didn't respond, but it sounded good to me.
Okay, very good.
She said,
So we'll move
she
on.
said absolutely. Thanks.
Oh, good. I'm happy to hear that. Thank you for your reply. And of course, we're going to lean on technology. You know, as the SBDC advisors that we have in our staff, incredible bunch of people, I would say that one of the most agile things we did was learn to do one-on-one technology through Zoom. And I will tell you that not all of us were really good at technology and a little intimidated by it, but we did it. So we leaned on technology, and it's actually been really terrific because it's close. People figure out how to get on. We've had productive meetings. And I would say that, you know, whatever is lacking, ask people, what do you think, what technology do you think I should be engaging? It could be MS Teams, it could be Zoom, it could be, you know, Facebook, Lifetime, you know, whatever. The issue is, don't be afraid of technology because you're uncomfortable with it. Work outside your comfort zone, breathe in and say, we're going to try this, even though you may not have the confidence to do it. There are plenty of people around that can help. Your SBDC advisors could help. And then think about pivoting to new customers where you can fulfill a need. So let me go back to the client that I have that extracts the grease from restaurants. Their trucks were also certified to do septic tank drainage. So when things happened with the restaurants, she immediately made sure she had her certification to go and get new customers by pumping out septic tanks. Not glamorous, not anything they did before, but within a week, they were able to generate revenue because they looked for a different new customer. And finally, find some alternative income. If your business is not bringing in the type of revenue that you need to survive, you may need to reach out and do something different. So one of my clients up in Rochester that owns a gym, he was doing, the gym closed, he's a personal trainer. He used Zoom to do those things, but it wasn't quite the same. He had a family, he had 2 children, and he needed money. So what did he do? He went out on his off time, he delivered pizzas, made a lot of money. You just have to divest from the fact that this is my business, this is what I do, and this is the only thing I can do. You have to be willing to do what it takes to make the situation better. It may not always be the best thing. And remember, none of this is forever. It's not forever. I remember the early days when my husband and I opened up the electric train company. It was a model train shop in Victor. And I was working full time. This was early 2000s, but I was also, I'm a cellist, and I was giving some cello lessons, and I was working for Staples. So, we all had to kick in and do some extra things. Did it last forever? No. You have to remember that. This too shall pass. So brainstorm your ideas. Be hopeful. Be creative. Don't let negativity pull you down. And ideas will come and solutions will happen. And believe it or not, you're going to come through this just fine. Probably one of the most important things to surround yourself with, other than people that that can be sort of an advisory board, is to know the resources that are there. And again, I have to tell you, people say the SBDC is the best kept secret. No, we don't want to be the best kept secret. So understand that you have the resource of the Small Business Development Center, the Small Business Administration, there's this, there's SCORE, there's the Women's Outreach Center. SBA on their website has some great resources you could download. New York State's Empire State Development, your Chamber of Commerce. If you haven't belonged to a Chamber of Commerce before, you need to have that as a priority expense in your business, because the chambers, they provide so much. And if $450 a year is a little big for the type of business you are, then there's the smaller chambers like Victor, Ontario, the Greece Chamber. There are many that interact with each other. They host events together. So maybe $50 a year is more along the lines of what you can afford. But my point is that resources are really important. And the Chamber of Commerce really has, especially the ones around the 4-county region, are stellar. The Greater Rochester Chamber of Commerce, they have so many resources there. And especially, just on a side, healthcare benefits. When clients have started a business and they're like, what do I do about healthcare? I send them to the chambers. Become a member, look at their healthcare plans, because they typically have a pool that's going to make it palatable to have that coverage. And many people forget that every county has an economic development arm, which means that they also have resources that are going to help you. I'll give you a good example. Wayne County Economic Development supports a grant program called SOAR, S-O-A-R. It's serving our area residents. And what they do is they're trying to create economic development in Clyde and Savannah. So they have some grant money that they can provide a small business owner for maybe things like setting up their organization, paying for the LLC or the corporation, maybe intellectual property requirements where they need to pay for a lawyer who can help them with that. So even though it may not be tens of thousands of dollars, that $5,000 grant could be the stepping stone that can help you. So don't discredit the county economic development organizations. Go on their website, see what kind of resources they have, and so on. Clubs, Rotary, Lions, business professional clubs, business and professional women's organization, things like that, where you've got individuals that can be collegial. In other words, you can share ideas. We can have an information interview. Your expertise is different than mine. Can we have a conversation on Zoom? You grab a glass of wine, I'll meet you at 7, and we'll take the evening and go through some ideas. Networking is very important. You need to have that. And during a pandemic, I would highly recommend that if you have a group of people that you can pull together that would meet with you maybe every 2 weeks or once a month, Call them your advisory board. Come up with ideas. Stay in tune and abreast of every situation. What are you hearing? What ideas do you have for me? Here's some I have for you. But one thing I discovered this morning, and this is my own stupidity, I guess, when the pandemic hit and everything shut down, the libraries were shut down. It never dawned on me that certain departments would stay open. So Jen, would you like to tell us about the Business Insight Center at the Central Library here in Monroe County?
Sure. Again, thanks everybody for coming. Thanks for joining us. So the Business Insight Center, all our services are at no cost to you. We can assist you with the information that you need to plug into your business plan. We can show you examples of business plans. Many people think that they need to be, very, very lengthy, like War and Peace, and that's really not the case. And so we can show you what a good one should look like. Also, any market research, we have access to many, many proprietary databases that if you wanted to access reports from them, it would cost you hundreds of dollars, if not thousands. So we have access to IBIS World, which covers over 700 industries, and that's going to give you an overview of the industry in the United States as a whole, and they're very thorough. You can find out if if your industry is growing, is it shrinking, things like that. We also have the Carlson Center for Intellectual Property, which can assist you with copyright, trademark, and patent filings. We also are one of 2 public libraries in the United States that allows you to meet with a patent examiner from the USPTO at no cost to you to review your patent application before you send it to the USPTO to make sure that it's prepared correctly. We meet with people. Most of what we do is just via email. So you can email us, you can call us. Everything we do is pretty much, I'm going to send you, PDFs of whatever information you're looking for. If you're looking for potential clients, we can help you with that. If you're looking at, who are my competitors, we can help you with that. If you wanted to do a direct mailing, we can give you lists that do that as well based on consumer behaviors. So if you want to know who are all the cat owners in Monroe County, we can tell you that, or all the horse owners, whatever. So again, everything is free of charge, and most of what we do is virtual anyway. There's no need for you to come down to the Central Library. You don't have to worry about parking. You can just give us a call, email us, and we can set something up. And in the chat, I also put our online form that allows you to book an appointment with us as well, which would be via Zoom.
Perfect.
Any questions?
I think that's amazing, because when I think about the resources, especially intellectual property resources, I mean, being able to look, have an examiner review your patent, that's an incredible service. And then you pair that with the SBDC Central Library and think of the value, the tens of thousands of dollars in value of those resources you can have, because it's all taxpayer supported and it's here for you just for the asking. So don't hesitate to use that.
And
so,
for trademarks, they can also do prior art searches to make sure that your trademark is not too similar to one that's out there already. So if you have a logo that you want to trademark, and just quickly putting TM in the corner of something is not enough to have a trademark. If you don't register it as a trademark, then that will not stand up in court. If you don't go to the effort of actually registering your trademark and someone infringes upon it, then you've got nothing. They're going to say, if it was that important to you, you should have registered it. So, but we can help with those prior art searches as well to make sure that, what you're doing is going to be feasible.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jen.
Sure.
Really appreciate that information, because I think everyone who owns a business should be leveraging these resources to help you grow and be the best version of your business that you can. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the legislative challenges that we have seen. And when I was talking about getting the staff together, brainstorming, staff, if they're working remotely may have time to take on some additional tasks. And one of them should be that you should have a couple of people, including yourself, with eyes on legislation. Compliance and regulatory compliance is a very important piece. We've seen where, liquor licenses have been suspended. We've seen lots of different things happening that haven't happened before because of legislative proclamations, executive orders, and it's important to try and understand them the best that you can. Another reason to be intimately involved with your chambers and partners in business, because they will probably be getting some type of information that will help you understand, well, what can I do? What can't I do? What are the consequences if I choose not to follow everything they want me to do, So you're definitely going to have to understand the requirements. You're going to have to adjust your business accordingly. I think about Wegmans and how quickly they pivoted to get up plexiglass screens. Our colleges and universities are adjusting. We all had to find a mask someplace to wear. So whether we agree or not, whether we think these things are helpful or not, it doesn't matter when it's a legislative issue. You need to comply so that your business doesn't get shut down, and you need to comply, material compliance. Do the best that you can. Reach out for assistance if you need some things. I know that in Wayne County, for those Savannah-Clyde people, the SOAR grant was helpful in helping them to get some things accomplished. And the other thing is collaborate with like businesses, even though they may seem like a competitor, and they probably are. And I think about, let's say, the window people, where you've got Pace Window and Comfort Windows, getting together every Friday morning for coffee to talk about, well, what have you heard on the legislative side? It's good to collaborate with like businesses and talk about what's happening, ask them what they're doing, and help each other. Because we need everyone to survive. We need everyone to come through this hole. And not everyone is going to. But these are some ideas that you can take and implement right away to be able to stay on top of these things. And when it comes to legislative, both federal and state, local, county, I would highly recommend that you build that team so that you're all looking at what's happening and have input, because some people have better understanding than others, okay? So on the legislative rule of changes, this is a priority that should be part of your top 10. Now, educating yourself, and I know sounds like a lot. This is overwhelming. This is so much homework. This is so much to do. But it's not something that you have to engage in every minute of the day for each topic. When I say educate yourself on the facts, I'm pointing the compass to different areas where you can extract information beyond any narrative in the news, but where you can actually go and look at specifics. For example, the U.S. Census Bureau has been monitoring all of the COVID pandemic situation on a number of different levels. One of the things that they've been monitoring is the difference between states that are reporting cases and deaths and hospitalizations based on actual COVID lab tested results. Okay, so South Dakota, Wyoming, North Dakota, some of the eastern seaboard states are only reporting those cases that were actually lab tested and confirmed as coronavirus. The Census Bureau also articulated that a state had a choice that they could do lab tested, or if they just thought someone had it. So if I assume that because you're coughing, you've got some chest pain and you have some symptoms and you've been to the grocery store, I could assume that this could be coronavirus and I can count it as a case. So when you read the Census Bureau and you read the data and the information, you begin to have a different framework in which to think about this. So I recommend looking at things like the U.S. Census Bureau. Read the Epoch Times, or things that you don't normally partake in. I've been reading the British Medical Journal on their 15 surveys about working with healthcare workers on cloth masks. I've been listening to podcasts. And one other thing I've been doing is using Google Translate to read newspapers and magazines on the topic in Italy, Germany, France, languages I don't speak, Japan, Korea. And so I wanted to understand, well, what are these other places that have been affected by coronavirus? What are they hearing about? What are they, could I pick up something that might've been missed in my news? So dig out information from at least 4 or 5 sources that are not your traditional go-to. Discover what's being said outside of where we are. You can use Google Translate to read foreign publications online. Leverage non-traditional resources like the U.S. Census Bureau to help navigate your thinking. Reassess what you're learning and change accordingly. So where we are today is different than where we were March 15th. Everybody had to change a little bit every week to comply, to assess, and then, Finger Lakes opened up, so we had different things. So this is like stepping and changing, so that you can remain whole, continue to do business, and, work on the important things of keeping your business alive. And I highly recommend that you avoid social media gossip and, anything that could be deemed propaganda. Get to facts. Educate yourself on facts daily. Okay. Next up, I have embrace change. Now, everybody says, oh, I'm flexible. I love change. By nature, humans typically don't like change. I have a client in Clyde who's starting a business, and she does not want to do Facebook or Twitter or any kind of e-commerce. She's sitting in the middle of a cornfield and wanting to have a little retail shop. And I'm like, nobody's going to know where you are because everybody is online. She doesn't want to do it because she is uncomfortable with it. She's not that well versed on it, and she's leery, and she doesn't have a lot of confidence. So what do we do? So if that's the assessment, what's the strategy? The strategy is get online, watch some YouTube videos about what other people have done in your industry, talk to people who have actually done it in your area, eliminate the fears by educating yourself on the facts, and then find someone who can actually create your website for you. And I like to recommend Fiverr.com, that's Fiverr.com, because it is not one place to go. It is a consortium of artists and technology people. It's a platform for freelancers, basically. So you could hire any one of 50,000 different people that do logo development or website development. So you don't have to go it alone. Build yourself a little advisory board. Have people help you to overcome those fears, build your confidence, and get online where everybody else is. So if that's creating a website, maybe holding classes online. So when she gets her business up, she wants to do classes on like how to make soap, how to crochet a lace doily. She doesn't have to have them actually come there, but she can do online classes, and eventually they'll be curious. Well, let's come and see this place. Learn to use technology like Zoom and MS Teams. If it's uncomfortable, that's okay. If you're not sure about it, find ways to get sure about it. My point is to embrace change and make sure that you're not letting hurdles stand in front of you because of fear, lack of confidence, or lack of education. Okay, figure out what could be different and do the things you need to do that will move your company forward through any crisis or just for growth. Okay, and I saved this toward the end. All the videos that I reviewed in my research and preparation for this presentation, I would have to say that the top 3 things, aside from not panicking, doing your assessment and evaluation, was communicate. Communication is key. And if your customers aren't hearing from you, if your vendors are not hearing from you, this is very, very important. So, make sure that you have every conceivable methodology available to communicate with your customers, communicate with your family, your online presence, your Facebook friends, Twitter followers, LinkedIn, people that are following you. Make sure that you're picking up the phone or having a Zoom meeting with your customers. Let them see that you're confident that the business is going to continue. How are you doing? What are the things that are concerning you? Care about their situation genuinely, not just as a way to keep the customer engaged, but also because if your customer is cared for, then your business will be cared for because they're going to buy from you and they are going to remember. They are going to remember you that, okay? Meet with your staff regularly, albeit through Zoom. We do this on a regular basis at the SBDC. We have our regular Zoom meetings, staff meetings with all of our staff, very productive. And so your staff needs to communicate with you and listen to them. Don't discredit something that they have in their mind, new ideas or something they saw. Always be approachable, always be listening, always give them credit for what they're thinking about. Okay, I used to, when I worked in management, I had a saying that was on my desk. It was actually printed in stone, and it said, "Don't come to me about a concern or a problem unless you're following up with your version of a solution." Because I want to hear from staff. If you're telling me that something is wrong, then what are your ideas about fixing it? Let's hear it. So communication, back and forth, listening to the staff is critical. And attend to your family. Communicate to your family what's going on. There is nothing worse, and I've had this with my clients. They have children, and they say to the kids, "Oh, don't worry, honey, everything's going to be fine. But I told you that account is going to be overdrawn." The kids can hear that. You know, you need to be cognizant that your family is as much involved in your business as you are. So your presence of confidence and calm are going to help them get through this so that they don't have anxiety, so they're not worried. You know, I have a client in Spencerport where I'm working on this almost weekly because it's a new business. They should have been up and running in March. All of the equipment is delayed because of COVID-19. Some of it coming in from Indiana, Illinois, and the UK. And the equipment that actually arrived from the UK was damaged and he had to rebuild it. The wife is going off the charts. "We can't do this. We're going to lose our house. Oh my God, what are we?" Calm, calm. It will be okay. Take it one day at a time. So attend to the family. Be sure everyone is well and safe, not just physically, but here and here, okay? That's important. Email weekly to communicate with business status and changes. If you've changed your hours now that we've opened up for indoor restaurant dinners, then change the website to make sure that that's there. Email them. You should have something like Constant Contact or MailChimp, some kind of email funnel that helps you to get that message out efficiently. Post actively on social media every single day, a positive, uplifting, "We're going to get through this." Demonstrate that you're in control. All right. Ask them, "What questions do you have? I can tell you what we're doing." Show pictures. So one of the clients that I had, she opened up February 15th and she had a shutdown March 15th. She was just there. So she's now reopened, but continued to show pictures of the cats, people that were doing adoptions, and she maintained that client base that was coming in to do the cat cafe and interact with her kitty cats there. So be positive, demonstrate control, build confidence so everybody sees your actions as positive, and remain hopeful. All right, every crisis will end, even war. This is not going to go on forever. At some point, it might be 2 years down the road, but we will return to some level, albeit new, some level of normalcy. We'll get through it. We'll be fine again. We've come through, you know, H1N1 swine flu, where we had 61 million cases in the US. We've come through Sandy, 9/11, you know, wars. We will get through it. We're strong. We're very strong. And our small business community is the best anywhere in the world. So don't have any kind of reservation that you're going to get through this. Demonstrate that confidence and move forward. And finally, be compassionate, be good to each other. Don't bite each other's heads off, you know, your staff, your customer who's, you know, looking for things. Try to think about what you're going to say before you say it, and just treat people kindly. You know, the Dalai Lamas, and I love this quote, "Compassion and tolerance are not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. And with that, I'd like to open it up to questions. Oh, before I go, our SBDC social media, you want to be sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We are SBDC Brockport on Facebook, I believe. And for those specifics, you can just Google us in the search on each of those platforms. So please be sure to come on SBDC social media, like us, share us, watch for some of the things that we're doing. And now we can take any questions that might be up there.
I just wanted to let everyone know the YouTube link for this program will be emailed to all registrants in the coming weeks, and that will also include information about our next program if you'd like to sign up for that. Any questions for Gina? Any? Well, Gina, great job.
Well, if you do have questions, you can certainly email me at Brockport, and or just on LinkedIn. So find me on LinkedIn, just Gina Mangiamele, and you know, I'd be happy. Or just call the office.
Mm-hmm.
That's an option too. But you could also go to our, and I gave you the website before, the NYSSBDC.org is the New York State Small Business Development Center website. There's a lot of coronavirus information there, a lot of resources as well. And you can click on make an appointment, and you can actually get yourself set up so that we can meet. We have a staff of incredible advisors that had come with all kinds of backgrounds. And we look forward to seeing you and hearing from you. And I hope that this was helpful in your quest to get through this pandemic. And thank you very much for coming.
Karen asked the links that you just mentioned. Sorry, what links did you just mention?
That would be the Small Business Development Center central site, and it's www.nyssbdc.org.
Also, the links to our social media, SBDC social media, are in the chat box. Kevin, our social media guy, just posted them. So
thanks, Kevin. Thank you.
Gina, there is a question from Kathleen. It says, is it better to create a Facebook business page than personal?
Yes. If you can do that, this is the best way to stay in front of people, is to have a Facebook business page. And I would even encourage you to run some ads to get it out there to the population that you want to retain.
Great question, Kathleen. Thank you. Any other questions for Gina? No? Okay, well, again, look for the link to the presentation if you need to rewatch it, or, you know, take some notes if you have horrible handwriting like I do and want to figure out what you wrote down. And with, do you know what next month's topic will be, perchance?
Jan?
Jan?
sorry about that. I muted myself. Yeah, Dick Petit will be presenting next month, and we'll be doing some basic startup information in this COVID-related time that we're living in, things to consider when you're looking at opening up now with all the various restrictions that we're seeing, and hopefully some insight into what might be coming down the pike.
Great. All right. If there's no more questions, then we will officially stop recording.
There's 4 new messages.
They're saying thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Great presentation. All right. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.